Okay, I
Uh,
just want to start by saying thank you so much for taking the time out to sit down and chat with me. I suppose we should start with, most people would recognize you from TikTok. So, how did that journey begin?
so that started, do you know what? When I started my TikTok, it was mostly like a drag thing.
Hmm.
It was always something I wanted to do because when I started, it was during Halloween in 2019. So loads of people were doing like transition videos with
Hmm.
like their costumes and stuff like that. So yeah, I started off doing that. And then afterwards I was just like, oh, up on trends, duet videos and stuff like
Hmm.
that. And then the first lockdown came about in 2020, and I just like proper got into it, really.
So, and obviously we'll talk about sort of the drag bit in a minute, but how did it feel blowing up? Because you got insanely popular on that platform.
I'll be honest with you, it was really weird because it was like, I don't know, the video that blew up. I think it was the oh, what's it called now? Oh my God, I've gone blank. These who didn't know that were Welsh. That was the first
Yeah.
video that blew up. And it was like random. I didn't think it was that good. And then I had like people like sending it to me because like people were posting it on like Facebook
Hmm.
and Instagram. I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And then, yeah, I got like 5K followers overnight with that one, which got me up to
Oh.
10K. And at that point, I was just like, okay, there we go. Nothing else is going to happen. No
Hmm.
one else is going to follow me after this. But it just kept going from there, really. And yeah, here I am now.
So how did that transition then back into drag? How did the drag sort of reappear on the TikTok and in your life?
But you know what? It was really difficult because I fell into like a niche of like doing like just being a Welsh
Hmm.
stereotype, Welsh cake, daffodils and stuff like that. And then that video of the Welcome to Welsh TikTok came about. So it
Hmm.
was just like I just fell into a stereotype and I was just like, oh, I don't feel like I could do anything else outside of this because I don't know if people would like it.
Hmm.
But then the thing I found with TikTok is that there's something for everyone on there. Like there's always like different markets and communities. So I remember one day I just tried doing like a bit of drag and like a different community picked it up and like they liked us. They came and
Hmm.
followed. My original followers are still there. So I was like, oh, perfect. So then I was like, oh, there we go. So I can do so much more with it. And yeah, I feel like that's when it got to a point where like everyone saw TikTok as that platform to like marketize
Hmm.
everything. Like Drag Race got on it, so I was doing like the Drag Race trends and stuff like that. And it's like then my followers picked up that I was doing it, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, what is this?" And then one of my most famous characters came about, Helen Evans, the
Yeah.
Devil Woman, and yeah, everyone just really loved her. They were like, "Oh my gosh, this is great!" Like we all, it's like Helen Evans is that character where it's like, well, if you're Welsh, you
Yeah.
know someone who is
Hmm.
Helen Evans. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, and it's just so nice that I was able to like, because drag is a massive part of who I am, and it's just so nice that I could show that
Hmm.
on my TikTok and people still be accepting with it. Because it's like every time I would do something in drag, I would get like no negative comments from it, which I was
Hmm.
like,
Yeah.
thank God,
Yeah.
like nothing negative came from it. But yeah.
Hmm. So how did your love of drag start? How did you get into that sort of? How did you discover drag?
I guess drag has always been there growing up. Like, you'd always see the ones on telly, and then there'd always be the local ones that would do like the women's nights and all that.
Hmm.
But my introduction to drag was Drag Race. I started watching it during season 7, and I just loved it. It was just so like I don't know because I felt like that was like the biggest like representation of queer
Yeah.
people that I seen when I was younger. Because it was like down in the valleys, you don't get a lot of it, to be
Yeah.
honest. If you do, they usually get bullied or they've moved away from the area, which I am one of them. Um, true that. But yeah, but it's like ages ago, before I done drag, I was going out like as airless in like boy drag. I was just doing like
Hmm.
I was just doing like normal makeup. So at one point, I just thought, oh, do you know what? I'm basically halfway there. Let's just go over there. And yeah, I just kept practicing in my room. I had like this massive vanity mirror, and I was just like, oh, let's just try this. And it's like, do you know what? It was around the time, season 9, I think it was, when like the eliminated queens would have like an interview with
Hmm.
Cosmopolitan, and
Okay.
they do
Oh,
their
yeah.
makeup. Those are the ones.
Yeah.
It's like I would always used to watch like every single one of them as soon as they came out, and I would like try and replicate the
Hmm.
Queen makeup. And it's like after that, I just started like taking like these little
Hmm.
things from each queen and like painted them on my face. So that's how
Mm.
Catrin came about, really.
So where did the name come from?
So my original name was actually Menopause, but then I listened to this one podcast of three women talking about the menopause, and I was just like, "Whoa, that is not for me to
That's
talk
yeah.
about. It's something quite serious." So I thought, right, get rid of that name. It's not funny. And then with Catrin Feelings, it was always like I always wanted something Welsh
Hmm.
and something which was a pun. I just love a drag queen when her name is a
Yeah.
pun. Is the best thing ever. And one day I was listening to Motivate by Little Mix, and there's like
Hmm.
one part of the song that goes, "Ooh la 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 la, yeah, I'm catching feelings." And I was just like, oh, that's like they're saying catching feelings. So yeah, I
Hmm.
guess that's what I'm about really.
And was the birth of Catrin, and where was Catrin born? How did that start?
I tell you what, I feel like Catrin's always been there. Like, I always loved dressing up when I was younger. Every time we'd have school Eisteddfod, which is the
Yeah.
oh, the yeah.
Yeah.
Um, whatever the competition, I would always make sure that I was like the female lead or something like that. I would always, like, make sure that I'm like, oh, I want to dress up. I want to be Lady Gaga in this mythical tale, and stuff like that. And yeah, so she's always been about really, but I feel like I feel like I oh actually, try and think now. Let's give it a year. Let's say 2017 or something like that. In
Hmm.
my bedroom, I'd always like do my makeup. And yeah, I remember that year. I think it was 2017 or 2018. I went to Pride, which was my first ever
Hmm.
Pride Country, in full drag as well, which was
Wow.
a nightmare because I put acrylics on and I couldn't pull my trousers
Oh.
up. It was awful. I still don't wear nails to these days. I just put a ring on and blind people. But yeah, and then after that, it was always just like it was just something which I'd done for myself. It was like
Hmm.
my way to like express my feminine side.
Mhm.
And yeah, I just loved like dressing up, but I never thought that I would be like performing. But then I came out of lockdown and I was like, do you know what? After like being locked away for years, Jesus Christ, for like 2 years, I was like, do you know what? It's time to like get out there and give it
Hmm.
a go. And then I done the Draglins in the Queen Emporium and
Okay.
everything changed from there.
Mm. And then obviously from there, then we come to sort of Etta's drag marathon. So
Yeah.
how did you discover Etta's drag marathon?
So I followed Etta's Drag Marathon last year when they done it, and
Mm.
it was the campus thing you have ever seen. I just loved everything about it. It's so nice that like, because the tricky thing these days is in Cardiff, especially, the drag scene is massive.
Hmm.
So it's tricky to like get yourself out there because there's just so many drag performers.
Hmm.
Um, so it's so nice that we get stuff like this, like Etta's Drag Marathon, Drag Idol, and stuff like the Queen Emporium, because it gives like these little drag
Mm.
performers that chance to get on stage in front of like older queens and different audiences, and just to like catapult them out there, because that's basically what it is. Like when I done Drag Idol, I found after that like I got a couple of gigs, not a lot, but like one or
Yeah.
two. But it's like that was something I was hoping to get out of Etta's Drag Marathon, that I do get a bit of like more recognition from like older
Mm.
queens. But I just loved it last year. The cast was amazing. And I was just like, it was one of those things, like I did try to go for it, but I was thinking I wasn't ready enough.
Mm.
And I like regretted it so much because it looked amazing. So as soon as I seen that they were doing it this year, I jumped straight for it.
Mm.
I am now.
And what I found is fantastic is that the representation for Etta's drag marathon is we've got people of color, we had kings, queens, trans performers, which is obviously incredible to see. How has your experience been so far of the competition?
Been very good. She's landed top two every week.
Wow,
Um,
wow.
It's been amazing. Do you know what? I've just really enjoyed it.
Mm.
It's been something new for me because it's like with main stage, I find it's a different type of crowd. Like the
Mhm.
stuff that I usually do, it's probably like a younger crowd sort of thing, which in main stage it is a bit younger, but I feel like with their vibe, they're very much more like the camp cabaret
Yeah.
queens. So it's like I did try to like go for that in this competition. And it's worked. Um, so yeah, I've just been enjoying it mostly because I've either won or been in the top 10. It
Is there,
helped.
yeah. Has there been a challenge that you thought you wouldn't do well in that you really excelled at, and I suppose the opposite as well?
That's going to be next week, the lip sync challenge.
uh, But yeah, is there anything that you thought you wouldn't be good at that you've really thought, wow, that surprised even me?
So I'm not the best singer.
Hmm.
So I was a bit worried about that because before going into the competition, I would always like just put a thick Welsh accent on and like just be like I I don't know really. I would just like camp it up and
Yeah.
I'd probably be singing it to a point. I'd probably just be rapping a Celine Dion song to you. Do you know
Hmm.
what I mean? So I was worried about that, but then I got into it, and so far I've won two challenges which I sang at, and I was
Hmm.
like, all right, so I must be doing
Yeah.
something. Um, and it's like getting used as well to like the mics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was something tricky for me because it's like if I get on stage and I hit a bum note, I'm off for the rest of it. Nana's on the karaoke, someone take it off. But yeah, I'll be honest with you, like some of the challenges have been quite tricky. Like it's
Hmm.
like this week's challenge now was we had to like present an award or we had to accept an award and we had to do a speech for it. And I was like, how do I prepare for that? But I just like went for my strongest thing, which is definitely my comedy. And I just thought, oh, I'll just
Hmm.
prepare jokes and I'll just fire them out and I'll just bounce off the audience. And it
Hmm.
went quite good, to be honest. Like I really enjoyed it. It helped that I didn't go first as well. Because I was thinking, I was just hoping that I didn't go first just so I can get a vibe of what
Hmm.
people are feeling and see how the person done before me. But yeah, I'm also worrying about next week as well because there's a lip sync
Right.
like showdown. So we're all lip syncing against each other. Um I've seen the other queens lip sync, and I'll be honest with you, I'm nervous.
Hmm.
So I'm just going to pull out all the stops. I'm going to find
Yeah.
shoes and walk in. Um, I'm going to learn how to flip a wig because I can't flip, I can't death drop. I'm not
Hmm.
dropping knees. I'll break them otherwise. So I'm going to have to learn how to like proper staple a wig to my head and whip it about.
And
That's
I
the plan.
suppose having been in the top or top two every week, no one has seen you lip sync yet. So I suppose you're a bit of a wild card.
That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping they're just like, oh, you've done shit in the lip sync, but you can go through.
um, so obviously I've been following you for quite a while now, and you do a lot of sort of Welsh-based performances through the medium of Welsh. So what's that been like? Um, doing and channeling through, I suppose, your origins on TikTok, then your drag, and then taking it through to performances.
It's something, it feels so like, it just feels right that I'm doing something in drag, something queer, and then something which is like very close to my
Hmm.
heritage and my culture with it being in Welsh language. Because it's like growing up, being a Welsh speaker, you don't really see much queer
Hmm.
representation for people speaking Welsh. I remember at one point being like, oh, there's no gay Welsh speakers. I must be the only one. That's going to make me so much money. But no, growing up these days, you see more people who are queer speak Welsh. I'm just like, oh, I'm not unique anymore, am I? Um, it's so nice that we get to see so much more of that these days. And it's just so nice that I get to be a part of like this sort of representation to younger people
Hmm.
that, you know, you can be Welsh speaking and be queer and like enjoy these things. And
Hmm.
it's like the National Eisteddfod this year. They had like a massive like gay scene there where we just like I performed in drag in the Eisteddfod for like well it was the second time this year. I'd done it last year, but that was very last minute after a little thing I done with Gemma Collins. It was a terrible
Yeah.
state. I forgot my wig down in the valleys and I was up in the north. Whole thing. But yeah, it just feels so like I think empowering is the word because it just
Hmm.
feels it's like yeah, like I said, growing up being a queer Welsh speaking person, I was always like I don't fit in
Hmm.
Welsh speaking community. But these days now, I feel like I'm a big part of the Welsh speaking community
Hmm.
because I get the chance to be myself and do the stuff I love while speaking the language that I love.
Hmm.
It's a great feeling, and I love seeing like all these gigs that are being put out there, like the cabaret bar in the Welsh Millennium Centre have been amazing for putting these gigs on.
Hmm.
You get stuff like Clwb Ifor Bach, and it's great that there's an ask and there's a want for
Hmm.
something like that because it is something important that we show that you know the Welsh language is still alive and thriving,
Hmm.
and you know drag queens are slaying in the Welsh language. No,
Hmm.
it's what people want to see.
Well, we're going to come back to that Gemma Collins story because I really want to know more. Um, but I've seen that obviously you formed quite a close relationship with sort of Anna Ben and George Dropper.
Yeah.
And obviously lots of these Welsh gigs you've been doing together as a trio. What has that been like forming that new friendship, forming that, I suppose, a sort of a pseudo group?
Yeah, it's the best thing ever. That's one thing I love about drag is that it it opens you up to this new community that you just make friends with. And I feel like I've made so much, like I made so many brothers, sisters, siblings and stuff like that. It's
Mm.
just, it's the best feeling of like being like accepted and like just like making new friends. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
But Ben and Jordan and me, we've officially said that we come in a package. Do you know what I mean? We've learned how to sing Padam in Welsh, and that's how um, but it's just like we're just so the best thing about the three of us is that we're just so different.
Mm.
But we click together so well. And it's so nice that we get to do these things together and show people the new style of drag through the medium of Welsh as well. And they're just the best to perform with, honestly. The vibes are immaculate. And I just admire their drag styles as well. Because, like, you know, with Jord being a drag king, unfortunately, we don't see that much of
Yeah.
representation of drag kings in the Cardiff
Mm.
scene. But Jord is smashing it, and especially like opening it up to a new audience of Welsh speakers who just know a typical, like, stereotypical drag queen. They're being opened up now to a drag king, and they're learning so much more about it. And then it's the same with Aniben, with their style is very much different to a load of people, and it's just so nice that people are accepting it as well. Because the best thing with Aniben is this: as soon as you hear the name, so basically Aniben is Welsh for messy. Although I don't find it messy. You know, if you watch me on stage, that's very messy. When you choreograph everything. But it's just so nice that people get to like appreciate and understand the artistic style that Aniben brings. And especially when they do it in Welsh as well. It just feels so much more poetic, but that's probably just me biased to the Welsh language.
Right, so Gemma Collins. Tell us all about it.
Oh God, not with a lawyer present. It was it was an experience.
Okay.
So basically, a bit of backstory behind it. So there's this program on S4C called Mwy na Tafs neu Daffs, which means more than taffs and daffs. So basically, the plan was we had to show these influencers and celebrities from England that Wales is more than
Yeah.
and daffodils type of
Yeah.
thing. So I was paired up with Gemma Collins, and so basically Gemma's dad comes from the valleys.
Okay.
Where it was my job to show her around the valleys, to show her that it's more than just what she remembers from when she was younger. It was no different according to her. Because she said when she came to Wales that all she remembers about Wales was coal and sheep. And coal and sheep she got for some reason. Producers brought a bunch of sheep to her and a bag of coal, and I was like, "What are you gonna do here? Are you gonna change her mind or give her what she wants?" It was tricky with Gemma. She goes off her own timetable. It's literally her own person, which is a bit tricky when you're all on a specific timetable and it's getting dark and the rain's gonna come in a minute. But yeah, it was an experience. It was nice that that for one SOC thought of me to like be paid up with her. So I went viral because of it, which is but yeah, I think my final statement with that is never meet your heroes.
Oh, okay. Right, so, what advice would you have for young people looking to get into drag then, or wanting to get started? What advice would you have?
Find the fun in it. I think I've always said that, especially when it comes to like TikTok. I think people will always ask me like, how do I start? I'm just like, don't think too much about it. Just think why you want to do it, I guess. Because it's just like, yeah, for me, it's always been my sort of way to express my feminine side, for me to dress up in these pretty dresses, which I've got in my cupboard, and to just perform. Like, I've always loved performing. That was always my thing. No matter what I do in my life, I just want to perform and make sure that I keep that tank filled. And that's where I find the fun in is that I can just like chuck a dress and a wig on, hopefully that they match, and just jump on stage and make people laugh. That was always my thing with me. So it's like, you know, even if you start off with like really bad makeup or really cheap outfits, we all do. We got to start somewhere. But as soon as you get on that stage, if you feel like you're on top of the world, the audience will love it, you'll enjoy it. Let's go from there. You know, because you've got to start somewhere, and it's just like, you know, I started off with like, well, it wasn't a Shein at the time. What did I get stuff off? Wish. Oh, I used to get everything off Wish. They'd never fit me. But I would work it. I'd buy wigs, heels, pads at one point, which didn't really work because like I bought a bum pad and it was like that big. My
Oh,
ass is not. Um, and yes, I just loved it. I was just feeling the fantasy. I thought I looked amazing.
hmm,
I didn't, but I enjoyed it. You
yeah.
know, I feel like with that confidence that comes off, people are just like, she knows who she is.
Hmm.
So yeah, just enjoy it. And no matter what you look like, no matter what you do, as long as you're enjoying it, go for it.
Yeah, fabulous. Just have fun. Where can people stay up to date with you and what's next for Catrin?
So, Catrin Feelings. I've changed the name recently on Instagram because for some reason I had too many like apostrophes and kisses and ats and underscores. So I've just changed it to Catrin Feelings now
Hmm.
on Instagram. As for TikTok, it's Ellis Lloyd Jones, but I'm gonna hopefully post more Catrin content on it.
Hmm.
So obviously at the moment I'm in Etta's drag marathon
Hmm.
every night. But I've also got two things coming up which I should probably promote. One sec.
Yeah, no problem.
Let me just get the dates right. So, here it comes. So on the hasn't got a date on it. Great. Okay. Right.
Okay.
So on the 16th and 17th of December, me and a bunch of other performers will be performing at Chapter where we're doing a parody of Love Actually called Love Apparently.
Oh.
So you know the film about how everyone's like shagging and stuff like that,
Mhm.
but it's all like hopeless romantic stuff. So we're showing it from a queer perspective and how it's not so easy to do like that. Another gig I've got, which I've unlocked my phone now and
Where
ready to
can
get.
people get tickets for that? Is that on the chapter website?
Yeah. I I just gotta show up. No, yeah. You should be able to get it on the chapter website. We haven't started advertising it just yet, but I feel like the link is live now, but we will be starting to advertise it soon. I've also got another gig. On that, I hear you all ask. On the 9th of December in Pontypridd, so this one is a Welsh language gig,
Mhm.
and it's basically the Eisteddfod have this one little branch called Maser y Maes, which is the queer community as a part of the Eisteddfod. So we're all doing like a little gig in Ponty in the YMA on the 9th of December. So, dead allow.
Yeah. I'll put the links and sort of where people can find you in the description. Could be people can just scroll down, click away. Um, but I will end the same way I started, and just by saying thank you so much for taking the time out to chat with me. Obviously, I wish you the best of luck for the drag marathon. And I will speak to you soon.